But let's jump to 11 through 20, and let's start off at 20. We have Rondae Hollis-Jefferson of the Brooklyn Nets. At 19, we have Taj Gibson of the Minnesota Timberwolves. At 18, we have James Johnson of the Miami Heat. At 17, we have John Collins of the Atlanta Hawks. At 16, we have Derrick Favors of the Utah Jazz. 15, we have Trevor Ariza now of the Phoenix Suns. At 14, we have Dirk Nowitzki of the Dallas Mavericks. At 13, we have Nikola Mirotic of the New Orleans Pelicans. At 12, we have Dario Saric of the Philadelphia 76ers. And at 11, we have Tobias Harris of the Los Angeles Clippers. Let's jump off right in the middle at number 13, or number 14. Number 14? Yeah, number 14, Dirk Nowitzki of the Dallas Mavericks. I had Dirk the lowest at 21. Dave, you had him at the middle at 14. And Ricky, you had him at 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it off to Ricky. Sell me on why Dirk is not only a top 10 small forward, but also, in your mind, better than LaMarcus Aldridge, Aaron Gordon, and Blake Griffin.
Well, I mean,
and he got better since last year.
I mean, I was going to save that until the...
real quick.
Also, the next one.
Real quick. In Ricky's personal rankings, he was 9, and now he's 7, and he got worse.
Well, one of the
he got real, but on the court he got worse.
One of the things this year, and it's not necessarily like, ooh, Dirk had to be 7. It was, I looked at it, and LaMarcus is lower in my rankings than he was last year, and Blake Griffin dropped from my rankings last year. So because people have dropped below him, he obviously moved up 2 spots in my rankings. He's still top 10 to me, and one of the things that I valued more importantly in the top 10 ranking is if you're a guy that can't shoot from 3 and you're a mid-range guy, I'm going to rank you lower because in this day and age in the NBA, if you ain't shooting the 3 ball, you ain't doing your job. And especially with the 4, where we're seeing more stretch 4s, and that's what we're looking for.
So just because Dirk is a stretch 4, he is better than those players inherently.
Think about it this way. He was at 9. He would have been at 9 the same. 2 guys went below him. So what does he have to do? He just goes up.
Okay, but also he's a guy that's not reliable. He's only playing 24.7 minutes per game. Yes, he started 7 games, but also he's gotten worse. He has declined in points from 2015 to 2016, 18, 14 to 12. Yes, he shot 40% from 3. What did he fucking do? That's on 4.4 shots per game. And yes, I love Dirk Nowitzki, but defensively, he's not there anymore. He can't play defense. He's slow. He's old. Dirk might not even be in the starting lineup. They might move Harrison Barnes to the power forward. They might put Luka at the 3, and they might put Wes Matthews at the 2. Dirk just can't
Dirk
go
even
anymore.
got minutes at the 5 last year. I mean, that's literally where they were at.
I love Dirk. Dirk's one of my only jerseys that I have in the NBA. I have a Wizards Michael Jordan jersey. I have a Dirk Nowitzki Dallas jersey. That's all I have. I'm living in 2002. And I love Dirk. I have an affection for Dirk. But come on, 7's ridiculous.
To me, I would take him over, like, top 10, you can debate it. Like the LaMarcus Aldridge, the Aaron Gordon, the Blake Griffin, you can debate it. But to me, anyone outside the top 10, I don't care. I will take Dirk because one of the things also that he has that you didn't mention that, I mean, we never mention with players is he's got leadership, and he's going to play dividends to this Maverick team, this young Maverick team, even though he might give you 12 points a game again.
Okay, then let's talk about a guy who's above him in our rankings, ended up being above him, Tobias Harris at 11. Okay. Tobias Harris played more minutes, started 80 games, 3 more games than him, shot a higher percentage of 3 at 41%, with more 3s per game at 5.6 per games, and was also better defensively and better as a player. Why was Tobias Harris below Dirk Nowitzki, although you took in 3-point percentage in there?
To me, it was not just the 3-point percentage, but yet again, like I just said, the leadership role of it as well to me, where that leadership that Dirk Nowitzki has, he's a top 10 player to me. And I would take him over what the other, if I'm doing my math right, the other 20 players that are outside the top 10, because 30 minus 10 is 20. That's why he's in my top 10, even though you could debate with me why I have him at 7.
Dave, you didn't have Dirk as low as I did. Again, I had him at 21. You had him at 14. Why'd you put Dirk at least there? And because you're exactly in the middle. I had him at 21. Yeah. Ricky had him at 7. You had him at 14. Yeah. Why did you end up falling around 14? What do you think of Dirk?
I did actually have Dirk at 14 because of the off-the-court things that he can provide for this team. He is the team. He has been the Mavericks guy. He's their Tim Duncan. He is the icon of the Mavs, and he's what the team has kind of like locker room presenced around.
The Ginobili, the Parker.
Yeah. Well, the Tim Duncan. He's the Tim Duncan. That's what I said. And I honestly feel that like him as a centerpiece to this team We all know what he's there for, and that's just being the veteran on the team. It's exactly what they need right now with this youth transition. I think that Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka. Jesus, I am.
You're so high on him, and then you forget his name.
It's 10:45. I'm usually unconscious by now. Between Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka, I think those are two awesome guys who will be the future of the franchise. But having Dirk there cements the culture, especially when you bring in someone like DeAndre Jordan, who needs maybe someone to make sure things don't get out of hand in that locker room.
Yeah, and you can just lock him in a room and change his mind.
There you go. But on the court, I agree. On the court, his skills have diminished. He is no longer the player he used to be. He's still an effective shooter. He's still an effective coach on the court and a guy who players can turn to when they need something.
Again, the reason why he wasn't near dead last for me because of that leadership, but I don't think that leadership is worth that much because, or at least worth that much when he's diminishing this much because again he's not able to go up and down the floor like he's used to. I mean he's still trailing. Well,
but those trailing threes is where he gets his points.
But I'm saying defensively he's trailing. Like after the trailing three, he's got to run back, and that's not helping him. He's still gonna he's still an injury risk.
A little high.
I'll be honest. I love Dirk, and yes, his leadership is there, but the leadership can come from the bench as well. And again, this team might end up
likely will be
moving away from him in the starting lineup and pushing in a youth movement like we're talking about and have Dirk on the bench. I think Dirk is a fantastic player. I love Dirk, one of my favorite players of all time. He's one of the best power forwards of all time. He modernized the position of the power forward. But having him this high at 14, I can't co-sign this list, having Dirk this high. Because I don't think he has that skill to be this high. It's just something where he deserves respect, he does, but this is something that I don't agree with. It's our list, I get it, but I just got to throw it out there.
By putting it out into the public, aren't you kind of co-signing it by letting it be
No, I'm
seen
saying
on
I
YouTube?
don't co-sign this.
No, I know, but it's like it's going live so they can see it, so kind of you're
It's a democracy, and I voted, and I can bitch about the vote. I can bitch about the outcome. Let's put it that way.
What about some of the guys after him? Like Trevor Ariza, a guy who last year we saw defensively absolutely crush it for the Rockets. He was a three-point shooter for a majority of the year. He got a little hot, got a little cold at the wrong times, but the whole team did, so you can't blame him for that because he was out there guarding KD.
But he's going to be some good, I'm going to say good leadership for this young Suns team as well.
Yeah, but he's another guy who the Suns, he could start for some of the season, and then you could see him lose his starting role and be that off-the-bench mentor a la Dirk.
But I think one thing that is at least the reason why I think that Trevor Ariza is going to stay in there is because he is at least going to bring consistency to that Suns lineup. While yes, they are there might be more talented and more potential players on the bench, I think it ends up being consistency with the Suns team. And when you lose as much as they do, you need to have some consistency. You're going to have Devin Booker out there, but again, he hasn't been extremely efficient. He's been fantastic. He's a high volume scorer, and yes, he's got 5.5 assists or 5 assists and 5 rebounds. I get it, but again, Devin Booker has a massively high usage rating, and he's a guy that is a volume scorer. Outside of Devin Booker, who is going to be the consistent guy on the floor? Is it going to be Ayton? We really haven't seen. We haven't seen him step out on the floor. I think Ariza will be that guy that can bring both consistent defense and consistent offense because Josh Jackson, he's not consistent offensively. We look at TJ Warren, he's not consistently defensively, and also he can't shoot from three. So I think a big thing, and also, fucking Brandon Knight at the one. He's not consistently healthy. I'm just saying, but he's not consistently healthy.
I know.
I think the reason why Ariza will continue to be their starting or in their starting lineup, whatever variation
just because of health.
Well, just because of his health, but also I think because of his consistency.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's extremely consistent. He's going to be shooting threes left and right. He's going to be sitting on the outside. He might not be putting up a ton of points, but he will be a guy that's consistent. You can rely on him. He'll hit shots when you need him. He'll be giving all the effort he possibly can be. I think Ariza is just a guy that's massively consistent. I think he ended up being ranked perfectly fine. He's at 15. He's consistent. He's Trevor Ariza. You know what you're going to get from him.
He's a world champion. He's a professional. He's everything you want to have in that on a team, to be completely honest, because he's also versatile because he can guard basically 2 through 4 still. He's still got athleticism. He's got great length. and he knows what it takes to win a championship.
But there's a lot of guys in here like that. You got Taj Gibson, James Johnson, Trevor Ariza. You got even, I think there was one more I'm missing. Taj Gibson, James Johnson, and Derrick Favors, kind of. But Trevor Ariza, James Johnson, and Taj Gibson are kind of those veteran guys that you can rely on consistently. Ricky, do you think any of these guys can make this much noise, or do you think that this is where they're going to be ranked for the majority of the season?
I find it interesting that, the thing I was going to say with Trevor Ariza, but you kind of bring it into this as well with the other guys, is this range kind of seems like those guys where it's like, hey, you're a veteran that might not be what you used to be when you were younger, but you have that leadership and you're going to pay dividends in that department for this team. Like the first thing when Dave kind of compared the Ariza thing to what we were talking about with Dirk, it's funny that they're back-to-back, 14 and 15, and now Derrick Favors is then 16, and Taj is 19. So it's like this might be the part where it's like you're good enough to be top 20 because of that leadership, but this is the range on the rankings to where you are because you're not the same players that you were when you were younger.
Yeah. I think the only guy that has consistently gotten better throughout his career is probably James Johnson.
Yeah, he's a weird one.
He's been a late bloomer.
He's a late bloomer. And
he was
honestly,
a Bull, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was drafted 16th, I think, by
and
the
then
Bulls.
we put him out of the D-League, I think.
Yeah, he bounced around a little bit, but honestly, he's become a very well-rounded player, and I think the Heat is like the perfect location for him.
Ooh. Yeah, he was 16 in the 2009 draft, right before Drew Holiday.
Yeah, well, that happened.
Taj Gibson went 26 in that draft.
Hey, that was a steal. But yeah, James Johnson, like I think that he found his perfect home with the Heat. They play a very good, very team-centric game, and he can distribute out of the wing. He's decent ball handler, good rebounder, and
he can switch defensively.
And he can he does everything you need him to do. Like Ricky's saying, Taj is the dude that I just love because
and Taj is the guy that he's kind of like Dirk in the sense of he's older. Obviously, his skills aren't what they used to be, but he's a massive leader on that team.
Still Taji boy.
So I think that's the big thing is he's going to give consistent effort to you, but he's never going to be that same player that he was. And even when he was that player, he wasn't even a star.
He was like a 12 and 10 guy.
Yeah, I mean he was very consistent. He's still consistent. I think the biggest thing that he needs to do, I think in my mind, if he wants to be seen as a better power forward, I don't think it's really going to help a stat sheet or anything. But if he's able to be a veteran leadership and be a veteran leader and possibly bring together that locker room, that would be a massive help because then Minnesota goes from a team that might not make the playoffs to a team that again takes all that talent and pushes it the right way. And maybe you're able to bring together Jimmy Butler, Wiggins, Cat, Taj Gibson, put them all together, and maybe Minnesota really starts to find their stride, which they weren't able to do consistently last year. I think that's the biggest thing that Taj Gibson needs to do. Not really anything with the stats or playing basketball, but at least being a leader out there. But a lot of young guys in this list as well. Dario Saric, Tobias Harris, he's like 26. Nico even as well, and you got John Collins and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Which guy are you expecting to make a big next step in your hierarchy?
And the reason why is because, like you mentioned it, the teams that they're on, like you could maybe say the same about Saric, but it's like I don't look at it the same way. But like with Nico, that Pelican team, if he can do what he was doing for the Bulls before we traded him, and then what he continued to do with the Pelicans last year, this is a Pelican team that could make a run at the playoffs again in the West. And I'm not saying that like it's a shocker that they would make the playoffs, but he's the one to me because I'm already kind of thinking about the question that you automatically ask of like who could make the jump into 10, and he's kind of one that I've been debating in my head as we've been talking.
Well, Dave, I mean, I was looking at Nico, and I mean, obviously we know his run with the Bulls was stupid good last year. And then he goes to the Pelicans. He wasn't as great, but still he fit very well next to Anthony Davis. Do you think he's able to possibly bounce back to where he was with Chicago, or do you think he fell kind of back to earth where he was in New Orleans?
I think he's probably, like where he ended the season is probably right where he will be at. He's someone who's easily exposed on defense.
Because he was playing for a trade too.
Well, he was. Yeah. He was. He knew it, and he played his basically his month of March or April in
that's usually the time he pops off.
Like you get that late season Nico, we had him in mid-season, and it was like, what is going on? Does he know what? Like that punch must have been really hard.
Global warming's messing with him, man.
No, I think he's probably about where he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get much better in his career. I think the 3-point efficiency might come up, but that's more of a offensive scheme thing and lineup more than where he's at because he's proven he is an electric shooter given the chances. I think he really, when they transitioned, having AD at the 5 and he got to play the 4, they saw something else out of him. As long as they can protect him defensively, which if there's a team in the league that can, it's definitely this Pelicans team. I think he just gets a little more efficient at the 3 ball. I don't see him progressing that much as a player. I think he's still going to be a liability on defense. He's still going to have those questions about effort from night in, night out.
I don't know. His defense, like the thing that's interesting though, you look at it with, and this could be system both the Pelicans. His defensive numbers, especially steals and blocks, went up in New Orleans compared to what they were in Chicago.
But that's really, again, he's playing with Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday.
Rebounds also went up. Like the offense, like points, percentages went down a little bit, but like things like his steals, his blocks, and his total rebounds went up a little bit.
He played on a team that played defense.
Exactly.
So,
but the problem is that if you watch during the playoffs, they would just pick and roll on him, and he had no answer to switches. He had no answer. He can't keep up foot speed-wise laterally. There's just no hope for him. I honestly look at this list, and the obvious Jake answer is Dario Saric.
Well,
I'm not even going to give him the. I'm just going to give him the fan answer saying Dario.
I thought that's what you were going to jump into.
It's John Collins.
You left there. I was going to bring up John Collins.
There we go.
Shout out Dario.
Dario's a guy that I love him, but like.
Well, and I think Dario is a guy that again it's tough for him to find his role
He's like the 4th, 5th option on this team, and yet he's still so fucking good.
But he's probably better off being the 6th man. Like because I think running the second unit, he's probably better off on a better team. Or not a better team, but he's probably better off on another team.
So potentially being highlighted more because I think there's more he can do for a team.
Exactly. I think he's kind of boxed in by having Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They need shooting and they kind of push him outwards. Where I think he needs to be a guy that is able to do whatever he wants offensively. But Dario's a guy that, again, he's going to be good on Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's just really what are they going to use him, how are they going to use him, how much are they going to use him.
And it's funny, you say he'd be better on a better team. All I can think about him in some Celtic green right now.
No.
Not a chance.
Because they're a better team.
I'm not another team.
Let's not start that. But John Collins.
Jesus Christ. But John Collins now with Trae Young having a better point guard.
Having a point guard. Having
a more traditional point guard who can actually pass and work in the pick and roll. Maybe Trae Young's not better than Dennis Schroeder, but he is a better passer. He's got great court vision. And John Collins is a guy that's massively athletic. He's a guy that can really just jump from wherever. Attack the rim. He's extremely aggressive attacking the rim. He's not great defensively, but he's a guy that, again, he's super athletic. He's super aggressive, so he's going to put up good block numbers. He's a guy that I think offensively, having Trae Young now on this Atlanta team is going to help him grow even more. He was fantastic last year, 10.5 points per game, 7.3 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists per game, and 1.1 blocks per game. I think this guy has potential written all over him, and it's really being in the right system and being around the right players to help him grow. And I think having Trae Young there is going to be massive to his growth.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think the addition of also some more outside shooters to continue to space this team out. But what he did with such a team, I don't really want to say like they were a bad team, but also, and I hate saying this, they were a team that did not always try. It appeared to me, and I know that I'm going to take some shit for that, but like they were a team where at times you would watch their games and it was like, holy shit, they just look like they're half-assing it out there. And I truly believe that he's a guy who constantly brought energy, constantly brought intensity to this Atlanta Hawks team. So I think the world of him moving forward, and like you said, everything lines up for him to become a much better player this year. Better usage, a true passing point guard out there, the added shooting from the outside at the 2. Taurean Prince continues to take a step forward, will draw more attention as well. I think Collins will be one of the focal points of this offense moving forward because he is such a good shooter from down low that like you can't not give him the touches.
Well, and the biggest thing too with him last year is they didn't give him consistent starts.
Yeah,
he didn't really start starting until February, March, and April, and that's when he started picking up starts and becoming the starter. For that Atlanta team. And I think him getting more minutes is going to be immense for his potential. But one guy I kind of, not exactly going to be an exact mold, hit every single box and check it, but I think he kind of fits the Derrick Favors role where Derrick Favors, real quick, massively underrated in our rankings. It's complete bullshit that every single year I have to come in here and defend Derrick fucking Favors. I will die on the Derrick Favors hill. I will battle for Derrick Favors. That is my boy. I had him ranked the highest at 14. Ricky, you were close at 17.
I had a few guys.
Dave disrespect him at 21. I get it. Derrick Favors is not a modern power forward, but he can be a fucking fantastic center in the NBA. He's a guy that can put his ass to the basket. He can grind out points underneath the basket. Sure. He can grab rebounds, and defensively, he is underrated. I get it. He's playing with one of the best defensive centers in the past 5 years in Rudy Gobert, but also he still did it without Rudy Gobert last year. I think that Derrick Favors is kind of in a bad position in Utah, but even though he's in a bad position, still has been fantastic on Utah. He's the longest tenured Jazz, and I think he gets disrespected. But I think he's a guy that you can possibly see some mold of John Collins. The fact that they would probably end up being better at the 5. I think Collins, I don't think he's ever going to be a stretch 4 in the sense of a Dirk or anything.
He's got more of a shot than Derrick Favors does.
Oh,
at least from
does.
3.
He does. But also, this is a different NBA. When Favors came in, 7 years ago, there wasn't that player model was still a viable option for Derrick Favors at the 4. John Collins came in, and there's been such a need for a shot for a big. But I'm just saying, at least aggression-wise, and at least athleticism, I think that's something that again they're also different body types. I mean, Derrick Favors is a big guy.
Yeah,
where
he's
John
more
Collins
physically built. John Collins just athletic.
Yeah, but I think both guys still have their athleticism, and I think that those guys are at least maybe they're going to end up being better at the 5. But I think there's both guys that can possibly take from each other. I think John Collins end up being in the pick and roll is going to be fantastic. I think Derrick Favors working with guys like Donovan Mitchell and Ricky Rubio will be fantastic again this year. I just think that again probably they're more modern day 5s than they are 4s. But I think that they still have a place in the NBA because those guys can be massively efficient and great scorers. Ricky, you've been kind of quiet.
You know what's the interesting thing about Derrick Favors going into the record books for the fast break? Sean, you and I have been fairly consistent.
Dave hates him.
Wait. Just get into it. Let me get into it. Let me tell a story here.
It's funny.
You and I have been consistent of where we were. You had him at 6 in 2016. You had him at 6. I had him at 8.
Coming off
so
his
I had
best
him
year.
slightly lower than you. Then last year, you had him at 13. I had him at 18. Slightly lower than you. This year, you had him at 14. I had him at 17. Slightly lower. However, Dave, it's funny. He had him at 5, which was the highest out of all 3 of us after his best year.
Yep.
Then last year, he had him at 18. And now he's got him at 21.
I've been betrayed.
He just keeps falling in Dave's rankings.
What do you mean you've been betrayed?
He got hurt, and he's not the player he was. He's not going to get the usage he ever got. Like, it's just there's no upside for him moving forward. That's me being honest.
I agree with that. Again,
number 5, right?
I just you had 5 2 years ago.
That's because he looked like he was a freaking monster. You said back to the basket. Like, he even had a little bit of a baby hook going at times. I was like, dude, this guy, 16 points a game. He can put up 20. I think that he could do kind of like the LaMarcus Aldridge mid-range game, and he just didn't grow. He got hurt. His usage went down. Everything went down, and
his usage went down. I get it. His usage went down, and he's been injured. But also, he's gotten more efficient. He was more efficient this year than he was in 2015, 2016. He shot 56% from the field this year, and also was more efficient from 3, even though it's not really a thing. But
the rest of the league keeps getting better.
That's why he's moved down 2 spots, and he's moved down on my list.
That's why I went from 5 to 21 on my list.
I still think he's great. And if you put him at a 5, I think he'd be much better suited. And I think he'd be a fantastic 5.
What's ironic is he got less points than he did last year because Dave had him fall more, and you had him fall 1, I had him go up 1. Technically, he lost points, but he went up 2 spots in our rankings.
Because Ricky has wildly different rankings.
No. It's like I had him near the same. Dirk was ahead of him anyway, so that wouldn't have mattered. But he moved up 2 spots, yet he lost points from last year.
Yeah, because our rankings were fucked.
Yeah.
Literally, you had Dirk at 7, I had him at 21. So I was going through all the rankings doing the math, and I got all the way down to the 20th spot, and then I was like, oh, now I got to put Dirk all the way at 14 and move 7 players down. But again, Derrick Favors in my mind is extremely underrated, and the only guy we haven't talked about is Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. So you guys have anything nice to say about Rondae Hollis-Jefferson?
He's on the Nets.
Wow. He's a good rebounder.
I'm not high on the Nets this year.
He's a good rebounder. He had a decent mid-range game. His 3-point game probably won't ever grow. But he's sort of I feel like going to be a veteran on this team.
He's 23.
Yeah.
I thought he was way older than that.
No, he's got an old man. He looks like an old man.
He's the next Al Farouk Amino.
He might be. Look, he plays a game style that doesn't really, fit the need anymore.
Had
But
so
he's still
much
good.
hype for him coming out of Minnesota. Like, he'll develop into a nice player, and it's just been one of those where it's like,
Minnesota.
I thought wasn't he on the Minnesota Golden Gophers?
Nope,
In
Arizona.
college? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So.
I think he's a good, not
Close,
great player.
but not even close at all.
No, I'm thinking of a different player then. I
Yes,
don't
you
know who
are.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of.
Good, not great. He's going to be in the probably 10-15 range for his career. I don't see him taking that next step. This is a Nets team where, honestly, they've got the 5 of the future on their team who I think is going to overshadow him. Jared Allen is just freaking awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, Jared Allen's playing the 5.
That's what I said.
Hollis is playing the 4.
I'm just saying, like, from a usage standpoint, I don't think he's ever going to get the chance to, like, he's had his one chance, basically. He had a year where if there was anybody who was going to be, and weirdly we got Damari Carroll resurgence. Yeah. So no, it's weird. He's a good, not great. I think he's fine as a starter, though.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, with all these, and this is probably going to be the last thought because we're kind of running out of steam, at least with this range. But you look at, I think, probably 18 to 30, all of these guys are 4th options, maybe without the exception of Marvin Bagley and Kevin Knox because we don't know what they'll end up being.
Right.
But all those guys end up being 4th or 5th options at power forward. And we really don't see a number 1 until, what, 7? Would you say 8?
Yeah, 8
is a number 1 option.
I mean, technically almost
So, like,
9, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's tough to find number 1s at the power forward position.
It's weird, yeah.
And technically, 1 and 2 are 3s. So there's a little hint, there's a little teaser. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is with guys like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is he does enough, and he might be a guy that falls all the way down to 24 next year, and the next year he might jump up back up to 20.
He's a young Thad Young. Like that's what I see him as. That's where his career arc goes. He might put up 15 a night at some point in his career and get like 6 rebounds, which is pretty awesome. But he's never going to be that stud on your team.
Well, and I'm gonna apologize because I confused him with Andre Hollins, is who I was.
Whose career has taken off, right?
No,
Close
it hasn't. But like,
is he related to Ryan Hollins?
No, he's related to Austin Hollins.
Okay, I don't like I don't like Ryan Hollins. I don't like him at all.
Okay.
He always comments
Noted.
on ESPN because he's a guy who works for ESPN. He's a former NBA player.
Oh yeah, he's been on like First Take and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I don't like him. Okay. I don't like him at all. He always comments on I blocked him on Instagram because he's so damn annoying. I don't like him.